Good morning and welcome back to Wise Tech for Wise Money, the podcast where we speak with founders, operators, real estate professionals and market leaders about how experience, strategy, technology and better business thinking comes together to create stronger, more scalable businesses. I'm Gary Wayne, founder of A1 Solutions. We work with founders, leadership teams and growth-focused businesses to improve efficiency, client acquisition, operational structure and commercial performance through smarter systems. Today's episode is called Simplifying Real Estate, Flexible Selling, Investor Thinking and Education in the Changing Market. I'm delighted to be joined by TC Cooksley Hackney. Have I got that right, TC?
Yeah.
Owner of One Simple Realty, based in Culpeper, Virginia. Now, what I like about TC's business is that it does not appear to be a standard list it and wait real estate business. The model is built around a much more flexible approach to helping property owners. That includes traditional real estate, flat fee listings, investor purchase options, auctions, rent to own structures, which I think is very key nowadays, nationwide MLS exposure, relocation support, buyer and seller education, and helping people navigate property situations that are not always straightforward. So today is not just about buying and selling houses. It's about the service TC offers. It's about understanding the real problems homeowners face, why the traditional real estate route does not always fit every situation, how education changes outcomes, and how real estate professionals can build trust by giving people genuine options. So, having said all that, TC, I'd like to welcome you to the show. It's lovely to have you here. Maybe we could kick off with a little bit of your background, what you've done, how you got to where you are today, and just confirming the service you offer.
Sure. So I kind of stumbled into real estate. I went to college for landscape design, but it really didn't pay women well back in the 80s, so I went into a mortgage company and got a job. And I worked in underwriting and secondary marketing for 12 years. So I did a little bit of everything in the finance world when it came to loans and pricing and selling them and wrapping them up. I got into B lending and commercial lending, and then I got my real estate license, and I went from there. So
How long has TC been? How long has One Simply been going?
I started Simple Realty in 2022. Before that, I worked for a large nationwide real estate company, and they were a great company to work for because rather than the company I worked for before where it was a commission split, they were a flat fee real estate company, meaning that you as the realtor who was experienced, you were 100% commission and you paid a monthly fee, and then you paid per closing to the company. And so that increased my income and then I discovered an online real estate company that was trying to do real estate by taking contracts over the computer with AI, and it had a lot of glitches. It didn't really work well, but it gave me the idea of that, things are changing rapidly in the industry, and I can offer a service that is a niche, that people need to be heard, and they need to build their sales, whether it's selling the property or buying the property. Some people need that niche where they just want individual service. So I opened my own company, and shaped it around basically a negotiable commission rather than a flat. It's supposed to be negotiable anyway, but we're accustomed to certain commissions I that aren't really always warranted. So I negotiate every single transaction.
That's fantastic. Do you find the fees that a lot of these big realtors charge limiting for clients?
I do. I find that, you know, the National Association of Realtors was sued for because clients did not feel they were treated fairly. Um, so that only increased my thought process that I was on the right path by negotiating what we both come to an agreement on what we deem as fair. And so basically, I combined a limited fee agency into uh, an expected real estate company, what is expected for X amount, and then we agree based on what they want in marketing is based on what our commissions are.
What made you actually set up on your own just to do that? Because you felt there was a need for a better service.
Well, when you work for a big company, you have to follow their guidelines, and even the flat fees, it's a struggle sometimes to agree on. Basically, number one, I didn't want to go into the office every week and do desk duty, and that's why I went to the big nationwide company that I'd gone to, but it was under new management, and the new management wanted to have more team time, and I didn't want to be a part of that team time. So I went out on my own.
I thought a lot of the realtors nowadays are working on a cloud basis and are scrapping away offices. Is that how you operate?
Yeah, I have an office in Culpeper, brick and mortar, and I have agents in different areas of the Virginia, and we commute. We mostly talk on the phone or like we're doing right now, a web chat for our meetings. I don't really see that they need to come into the office unless they desire to.
So how did you get the name One Simple Reality?
It Well, because I break it all down to being very simple. I simplify the process of real estate. Um, what's best? What each person, like I said, it's a boutique real estate company. So I break it down and answer questions based on where that person is. What's the best move for their situation? What are the trade-offs? What's their timeline? What's their risk? Like, for an example, I have I have a listing where the lady really doesn't want to move until September, but she didn't want to miss the market, so we listed early, and we work back from what their goals are to what to when it goes on the market and how to work it. So,
So, I mean, how does that equate to actually coming up with a fee?
like I said, it's a lot of it's market based. So I have 4 options in marketing. How much they want, how much they need my support is basically how we structure how much they're going to pay in commissions. And I always tell them buyer commissions are not set in stone. This is a listing commission and this is a buyer commission. You are not obligated to pay the buyer's commission. It helps you sell your property faster. So to pay it, but many companies still do it the old-fashioned way. I don't. I apply the NAR's ruling, and I tell them that buyer commission is negotiable just like mine.
So how do you go about getting your clients and building your business?
Well, I had a lot of years. I had a lot of years in real estate when I went out on my own, so a lot of mine was referral, And since then, I'm working with AI just like everybody else, and I have an AI um, team that brings leads and referrals in on a regular basis, and that's basically where.
When people come to you and they're obviously looking to sell the property, what sort of situations are you seeing, in Culpeper? I mean, are they moving to bigger houses or are they relocating? What's the general?
Um, well, a lot of my clients are relocating. Um, I have some that I've done rent to owns for, and but a majority of them are relocating to other areas or other countries, because to retire here in the Nova area, which is outside DC, isn't very affordable.
Right. Is that a high taxation area as well?
Yeah, Culpeper has 3 data centers. We have a huge Amazon center. It is a high tech area. Um, and its infrastructure isn't really there everywhere to support it because up until 5 years ago, it was predominantly agriculture. So since COVID, we've seen a huge change in what there is here. So it's gone from agricultural to high tech in a very short time.
Tell me the systems you offer. You mentioned, was it rent to own or right to own?
Rent to own. So
How does that work?
I don't do land contracts. I do rent to
Right.
owns. Rent to owns is the person has had some sort of glitch in their life, but they want to own a home. So we agree to terms, and I write long-term rental agreements, like 1 to 5 year rental agreement. And they agree on a purchase price today that they'll be buying the house at in 1 to 5 years from now. And they put down a down payment that is non-refundable, but the seller agrees to credit that amount towards the purchase. And that means that they will give a letter to the lender of the renters stating they gave them X amount of dollars towards the down payment already when it comes time for them to buy the house. Those renters, I always offer them a credit ebook that I have put together and encourage them to get credit counseling so that they are prepared to make that transition from being a renter to a homeowner.
Right. So are you buying the houses and then renting them out with them to buy from you, or are you finding individual sellers that are happy to wait 3 to 5 years?
I do both. I mean, I've rented them out. I did rent to owns myself on homes I bought, and I also do rent to own for people who want to move or they've inherited it and they have some issues with, there's a lot of reasons people choose to rent to own. They have a vacant house and they don't know what to do with it and it needs a bit of work. Rent to own might be a good avenue for them for painting or landscaping type of or clean out. A rent to own might be an option for them because a rent to own, you create a win-win solution. You listen to what the seller wants and what the buyer wants. I mean, there's homes on the market for a long time. They might be on the market for a year because they want a price and they can't get that price today. But a renter might be willing to pay for it that price in 3 years and they'll just rent it in between.
So do you normally, put an incremental price rise to today's value if they're buying it in 2 or 3 years' time?
Right. A lot of times it's a house that's been listed previously and didn't sell, is what I find as a rent to own.
Do the renters have full responsibility for maintenance and
They
upkeep?
do. That
So
makes them
it's
a
just,
junior. Yeah, it makes them a junior owner. When on a rent to own, it's a junior owner. They're responsible for the maintenance and the upkeep. We put a home warranty in place to help them, but they're paying rent and upkeep.
Are the rents deducted from the price of a house, or so
Nope.
that's all on top?
Right.
So when it comes to the day when they want to buy it, suppose they've had a credit problem or something along the way that's caused a reason for them to delay 3 or 4 years. Do you have specific lenders that will look at them kindly after that period of time?
There are local lenders that look at them very kindly, but they're not required to use those lenders that we give them. There's local lenders, small banks that will have them open up a checking account and they'll deduct the mortgage payment right from the checking account each month. But they're not required to use them. They can go anywhere to get their loan. It's their choice.
Is rent to own a big thing in the States? I know I talked to a few people in Canada where they do quite a lot of it. Is it a big thing in the States? I think you're the first realtor I've spoken to in the US that's doing it.
They're not a big thing. Where I grew up, so I grew up in a farming community. That was the way that young farmers bought farms. So for me, that was a way of life. But in the cities, that's not very customary. And quite honestly, that there has been a boom in real estate in this area for quite a long time. I mean, I lived in Fredericksburg, and for 20 years when I first moved there, we had to rent for over a year, for almost a year, because the houses were selling within hours, so you couldn't get a house. And in some pockets, it's like that, but out here in Culpeper, the property can set for, when I first moved out here, I thought I was going to pass out because the days on the market in Rappahannock County were like 1,000 days. I had to really wrap my mind around that idea of being in the market 1,000 days, because I came from a market where 10 days was a long time. So, so for a market where houses don't sell in a year, rent to own is really very doable, and might be, and it solves a problem. The seller wants to make a transition and the buyer wants to make a transition but might not be able to afford it for whatever reason this day, but they will be able to get there in 12 months or 36 months, just like buying a car. So if you make it affordable and transitional, it will be successful.
Why does it take 1,000 days to sell a house in Culpeper?
Well, that's not in Culpeper, that's in Rappahannock where I
Oh,
live, which
right,
is
okay.
it's the next county next door to because Rappahannock is focused still on agriculture. They're not into tech, and they've done everything to keep tech out. When I first moved here, I didn't really have cell service. I had to get a house phone, and it was a big adjustment. And it's gotten better in the last 4 years. It's gotten better, but the people here are still resistant, and you have to own at least 25 acres, mostly, unless it's family inherited land. So homes are a higher price and set longer. So a rent to own is a really good option.
What's the average house price in your area?
In my area, 550,000. So,
And if you're renting to own, what sort of price are you going to be paying as a starter?
well, so there's one near me that started out listed at 400,000, and the person has moved out of the state, and so now it's been dropped to 325, but it's an acre, so that was a family lot. So it's non-conforming to this area. But that would be a great starter home for somebody wanting to come into this county.
Compared with the UK, that is just so cheap.
Yeah,
You
the
know,
people who own
people get a shoebox of that price here.
the people who owned my property before that we bought the property from, we still keep in touch with them because we are military, so we would run into each other in military things. Um, they told me that their son, he lives in England, and he just finally bought a house after living there for 10 years.
Yeah, and prices are going up all the time. I mean, yeah, I think we need to have rent-to-own schemes, without a doubt. Well, what's the biggest misconception sellers have when they first come to you? What sort of problems are they dealing with or bring to you that you need to help them with?
Most of most of my sellers, a lot of them have a house that's in need of work. So I have investors that will buy homes as they are without ever going to market. Um, and like I said, I do the rent to own. So I have investors that will buy it as is, and then I have investors who will come alongside of the seller and fix the house and split the profit at closing. So that's how I get a lot of people. Not many realtors will do that, but they want to get out of their house and they don't want to fix it up. So it's
I think
a
that's a really clever idea. Really clever. I mean, a lot of people they can't afford to move because
exactly.
because so much needs doing to find an investor to work alongside you, and then split the upside from what you would realise is phenomenal. Yeah, when you move, do you have to pay taxes like stamp duty or anything like that?
Yeah, when you pay taxes on every real estate transaction. Where we live, it's only the one tax. If I'm selling a house in Northern Virginia, which is Warrenton towards DC, or Stafford towards DC, there's also a congestion tax on top of that. But in Maryland, I've bought and sold property. Their tax was twice as much as in Virginia. So in Virginia, it's pretty reasonable. It's 3 to 4% in taxes, depending on um, where you're selling. And unless you're unless you're a resident alien, and then you pay another tax on top of that. It's a 10% tax instead of a 3% tax.
What's a resident alien?
So if you came here to America and you bought property and you still kept your English, you still kept your nationality to the UK, and you stayed here for 3 years and then you wanted to sell the property, you have to pay a fee. You have to pay a tax on that.
What about if I live in California and I want to buy a house in Virginia? I'm going to keep my house in California. Do I have to pay an extra tax then?
No, no, you're an American citizen. There's no extra tax.
Tell me about how do you value the property and decide what it should go on the market for? I mean, obviously people do evaluations and appraisals, but I mean, so a lot of the time they're either too low or, you know, people aren't pricing them as people want. How do you sort of negotiate that with the seller?
Well, most sellers have an idea in their head what they want for their property. And what I do is I do a market analysis. I don't just look for what's sold in the last 6 months. I also look for what's active and what that's similar to their home. And I only look, it depends on where I'm working, whether it's in a rural area or a city. I look in their neighborhood to see what's on the market, what didn't sell, what expired, and then what has sold and is under contract. And based on how many bedrooms, what style house they have, whether it's a townhouse or a single family house, and whether it's a 2-story or 1-story, whether it has a garage. Those are comparables, and I show them what the market will bring, what their price in the market is likely to bring. Some people still want have their own number that might be higher. If it's way out of line, I believe they're better off going to someone else than to work with me. If I can get them in the ballpark of where I'm seeing it'll sell, then it's a more agreeable situation for me to work with them.
So you set a price, obviously you have an understanding of the market. When they get their mortgage, they have to have another appraisal, correct?
Well, I don't. I do a market analysis. Like I said,
Do they
I'm a
have to
real
get a
estate.
separate appraisal
Yeah.
or is yours good enough?
No, because I do a market analysis. An appraisal that a lender does is actually an appraiser. They're licensed to appraise, and they're looking at what's sold only. And if it's a higher number house, then they have what's active. So they do 3 comps of sold and 3 comps of active homes. And they provide an analysis that way. So their analysis is similar to mine. And usually my price, if somebody uses my numbers, they're usually in the ballpark. I'm pretty close to what an appraiser will come out with most of the time, within $20,000. So, but not every real estate agent comes out with those prices the same.
So
I'm
how does it
considered.
work for investors, with you? I mean, you talked about flat fee, service for the actual normal buyer and seller, but what about an investor? How does he operate with you?
Well, investors often want to do a lot of their own stuff. So, like I said, I have 4 different marketing programs, and that's how we base our commission. An investor generally, most investors really want me to do paperwork and some very little marketing, so their commission, I obviously do a much lower commission with them because they have lower expectations of me.
Do you do a lot of portfolios and stuff like that?
I don't do a lot of portfolios. I do very few. I do a few portfolios, um, and I work for banks a little bit, but mostly I do one individuals.
Right. Do you get involved in auctioning much?
I used to do a lot of auctioning. I find it a very enjoyable. Mostly as a real estate person, I'm the marketer arm with an auction. When I first moved to Fredericksburg, the company I worked with was tied in with with an auction house, so we did all their marketing for homes, and that was a lot of fun, and I still enjoy it. It's a different piece of real estate.
So there's not much auction work where you are, or you just don't get involved in a lot?
There's not as much as in the Midwest. There's a lot more auction real estate than here. Um, I'm seeing more auctions than I have in the last 10 years. The last 3 or 4 years, I've seen more auction real estate, and I've done a few. But most property, so the difference in auctioning a house and listing with a realtor, the buyer pays the premium in an auction. In a listing with a realtor, the seller pays a commission. Premium and commission is the same thing. It's the same number. Actually, an auction takes more. Some auction houses want advertising funds up front from the seller, and that's the seller's portion. But I get a percentage of the premium. I don't get paid the advertising. I get a percentage of the premium when it sells.
What makes people go to auction in your area? Is it because the property is distressed, or they just want a quick turnaround, or
Here are inherited homes. So usually it's an attorney advising the seller to sell through auction, or I go to the auction, the tax auctions. Those are people who haven't paid their taxes and lost the house.
so is there?
So I have bought.
What's the timeline on an auction transaction?
The great thing, well, for the seller, they need the the auctioneer needs about 30 to 60 days to market the property, and then it goes to auction and it closes, and even the property on the courthouse steps, it depends on the auctioneer. Some of them will close within 7 days, but if you have financing, most auctions today will allow you 30 to 45 days to get your financing in order to close.
Interesting. Tell me about in your service. You said you don't just talk about selling. You talk about investor partnerships, strategic updates, property potential, before and after rehab. Thinking. Tell me a little bit more about that. It's quite different from what other realtors talk about.
So a lot, you have a house that needs rehab, but you have sellers who don't have the money, but would like to see more money out of their property. So I have investors who will come alongside. They'll give them some money. They'll have two closings. They will partner with the seller. They'll give them 50 or 70% of an agreed price on the first closing. Then they'll come in, they'll let the people stay there for up to a month. When they move out, they clean it out, they rehab it, they put it back on the market, and when it sells, they split. They take out what it costs to repair, and then they split the gain with the current owner.
Fantastic. Do you how many transactions do you like to see a year like that?
Well, last year I did 3 like that.
What about agents? How do you employ agents? Are they on a split, an 80-20 or something like that? How does it work?
If they have no experience, they're on a split. If they have experience, they're on a flat fee. So, because I don't have to go alongside of them, but I actually recently partnered with an AI company that is the back office. They will the agent signs up with the company. The company markets them and gets them leads. So the agent will get 60%. The marketing company gets 30%, and then there's a 10%. I get a piece of the 10%. I get 5% out of the 10%, and the other part, goes to overhead. That company handles all of their back office, whether they brought the lead, whether they brought in the client themselves, or that company brought the client through advertising. They set the appointments. If they set the appointments and everything for the agent, and the agent just goes out and takes the appointment, because they put the appointment right in their Calendly. So they use Calendly, and it shows up in their calendar. They know what time they're supposed to be there, and it works pretty well.
How many leads are they getting a month like that?
They're getting between 5 and 20 leads a month.
That's fantastic. All motivated sellers.
Pardon?
All motivated.
They are very motivated. Some of them want to wait a month or two for repairs that they're doing, but they're very motivated, and a lot of them are buyers, so they want to find a home as soon as possible. So
Do they charge a setup fee for the service, or it's just
They do not charge me a setup fee.
Simple 30% fee?
Yeah.
Very good service. What about education? We spoke about education. Tell me about the education you provide.
Well, I go along with them and on their first couple of buyers and work with them. My education is teaching them the contracts before we even go out. Um, they've already gotten their license, so they already know the rules. And in this state, you're required to have CE credits, so you have to renew your license every 2 years. The association I belong to offers those classes. I used to teach them, and I used to teach pre-real estate to help people get their license. I'm not doing that right now. I also used to teach a buyer education class through Virginia Housing. I still refer people to Virginia Housing for that class because it really is an awesome class to teach people to transition from being a renter or living with their parents and understanding the importance of home ownership and the responsibilities that come along with it.
Really good. Tell me, why are people, so retirement people are moving out, Culpeper. What brings people here to start with?
Like I said, we have the 3 data centers. It's in between Charlottesville and Northern Virginia, and it's still not. It's not a. If you're looking for a quieter place to live and raise your family, this is still a rural area that's beautiful, and yet has a small town feel, and yet it's a growing area. So we have a college, we have Germanna College, we have a tech center, we have the data centers. There's a lot that this area has to offer, and you don't have you don't sit in traffic for hours on end waiting to get home like a lot of people do that are coming out of DC.
Can you leave your doors unlocked? Is the crime rate low?
The crime rate is low, and I do know people who do leave their doors unlocked.
That's a really rare situation nowadays,
Yeah,
especially in
it
the
is.
UK.
I can only imagine.
Do you think
But
the future of real estate is going to be different? Professionals need to do more of what you do, i.e., be more of an advisor, an educator, strategist, rather than someone who just sells.
I think that if you are looking for a job where you can just sit back and wait for the deals to come to you, that's going to be fewer and far between because um, AI is it helps us, but it also hurts us. If you want an order taker, I can set up AI to take an application over the computer. I can have them submit contracts over the computer. So you really have to have something that people want and need in order to stay busy in real estate.
You seem to talk a lot about AI. How long have you been involved using AI, and what made you go so heavily into it?
I started using AI bots on Facebook in 2018 and realized that wow, I'm not on the phone. I'm not on the computer 24/7, but a bot is. So they're grabbing me and they're giving out information, basic information, gathering information, and letting me know if somebody's really interested in my services. And to me, that's a great way to meet people. There's a lot of people who are just out there looking around. They don't need me to call them and talk to them. They're just looking for basic answers. They can get that from an AI.
Fantastic. And you said you had a team that does that. Is that in-house?
It is. It is now. Until this year, it was not in-house.
So if you had a magic wand and you could change anything within the industry, what would you do?
For the whole industry, that's a
Yeah.
big question. You know,
Well, you're very advanced compared to a lot of realtors. So, I'm interested in what your your overall viewers.
So years ago, I worked in a mortgage company. I worked in savings and loans, and they failed. And what I came away with understanding is that real estate is cyclical, but it's also market oriented. You have nationwide companies and you have big investors like BlackRock and all those that are coming in and scooping up property. I think Zillow is a prime example of why that doesn't work. They were scooping up property and buying it based on an algorithm that wasn't, that an algorithm that Zillow had was nationwide. It didn't account for pockets and regions. And that's why it didn't work. Real estate on the residential side is a localized knowledge base. Commercial, it's okay to do nationwide because that's impersonal in its numbers. But when you come to residential, your home is your biggest investment, but it's a personal investment to you. And you have to take that into consideration. And you have to really know your local market and what's going on in your region to really comprehend the value of each individual home. Like, for instance, Amazon was building. They're building. If I owned a house across the street, that house wasn't going to be as much value as the land that Amazon was building on. And you might think that that's a palace worth $1 million because Amazon is across the street. And it's my job to tell you, I'm sorry, your home is only worth $350,000 because it's on the wrong side of the street. If I'm a big company, I don't know that.
So a lot of local knowledge.
Yeah, local knowledge is really what makes a realtor worth their weight in gold.
So your advice to people setting up a reality business now?
You need a boutique. I mean, well, if you're setting up a real estate business, whether you're an agent or a broker, you have to figure out what makes you special. We all sell real estate. I have plaques in a shoebox. I mean, in a box downstairs that I never hung up on a wall, but because I was a top salesperson, but they mean a lot to some people. Rookie of the Year is a big thing to some people. That's a personal thing. How do you equate that to meet the needs of the people coming to you for your service?
Right, very good. Well, I think it's been a really good podcast, and I haven't actually spoken. I've spoken to quite a few people, and in your sector, and some of them are in big companies, nationwide companies, but I haven't come across anyone with the technology and mindset that you've got, apart from one other lady who was out of New York. It's been a fascinating conversation, and I really appreciate you being on my podcast. For people who want to get hold of you, want to move to Culpeper, etc., how do they get hold of you?
I have a website, One Simple Realty at US, and I have a phone number. The business phone number is 540-445-1296. So I'm happy to help people.
Well, you're on LinkedIn?
I am on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I have a huge, and my children set me up on Instagram. So I'm pretty easy to find.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you once again for being on the show. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. As always, we'll be back in a day or two with some more founders, more business leaders. I'm Gary Wayne at A1 Solutions. Signing off. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you again, TC, for being on this podcast. I'll talk to you in a sec. Yeah.
Much appreciated. Have a great day.